absolutely picture-perfect night for baseball in downtown Cincinnati. And we welcome you to Great American Ballpark, the final series of this homestand beginning. Game 1, the New York Mets in town to take on the Reds. Good night again, everybody, alongside the Cowboy, Jeff Brantley and Brian Giesenslaw. I'm Tom Brenneman. Welcome, as always, to Reds baseball right here on Fox Sports Ohio. All right, Cowboy, right at it. Our Elk and Elk storyline, the New York Mets. When the season began, they looked unbeatable. 11-1 to begin the year. What in the world has happened since then?
Well, you start the season like that, Tom, and New York's exploding. They're thinking, all right, here we go. We've got our healthy pitchers back. We're heading to the playoffs. They're winning series left and right. Well, they've lost 5 of their last 6. They're not hitting. They're not pitching. They've lost a name in their clubhouse in Matt Harvey. Things are a little bit in turmoil for those New York Mets at the moment.
Well, the man trying to keep them on this recent tailspin, getting the ball tonight for the Reds, is Homer Bailey.
Yeah, I think Homer Bailey is pitching against a kid that never made a big league start. And for Homer Bailey tonight, the biggest key for him, it's not the New York Mets' entire offense. It's Jay Bruce and Todd Frazier. Old friends, old teammates. Keep them off the board.
You know, when this series was getting underway and the probables came out, really the ace of this Mets staff, Jacob deGrom, was supposed to start. Now he's hurt. He won't pitch for another week. So making his major league debut tonight, you know he's got to be nervous. You remember yours, P.J. Conlon.
But, Tom, you look back at his spring training, and everybody says, well, spring training means nothing. This kid threw awfully good in spring training, and that was where the Mets went when they had to have somebody to back up Jacob deGrom. His AAA numbers have not been very good at all, but what they remember is how well he pitched in front of the big league staff in spring training.
All right, when we come back, we'll check in with Brian down along the Reds dugout. Cowboy mentioned the name a moment ago. They had a big celebration for Jay Bruce last year when he came back. Tonight, they'll do the same for Todd Frazier.
Brought to you by Chevy. Check out our award-winning lineup only at your Tri-State Chevy dealer. And by Skyline Chili. Feeling good, it's Skyline time.
Hey there, Reds fans. I'm Local 12 News meteorologist John Gum. Weather looks outstanding as we start this series tonight with the Mets. Going to be right around 68 degrees by the first pitch with a few clouds. Otherwise, we're mostly clear tonight, dropping into the low 60s by the final out. Enjoy the game right here on Fox Sports Ohio.
Welcome back inside Great American Ballpark. Brian Giesenslaw, Reds and Mets on tap here tonight. But you know, one of the major storylines as we start this series is the return of two former Reds. More than 1,500 games between these two players in a Reds uniform. We're talking about Jay Bruce and Todd Frazier. Bruce has done this before. He got some of these hellos out of the way last season when he came back with the Mets, but saying hello again pregame today, and then for the first time in 3 years, Todd Frazier back at Great American Ballpark. These guys shared a large portion of their careers and some memorable moments in this ballpark and with this team. And Todd Frazier, just like the Reds did for Jay Bruce a season ago, honored on the field just a few minutes ago before the start of this game. And who can forget his relationship with Teddy Kramer, who came out to say hello. Frazier glad to be back in downtown Cincinnati.
Yeah, it feels good to be back. Like I said, a lot of memories, a lot of great moments for me, and you know, I think back at that home run derby here, man. It was special. You know, having my family on the field, winning for the city, and still got the trophy. I see it pretty much every day. It's in the house in a good spot, and like I said, it's something I'll never forget. And yeah, it feels good to be back here. Maybe have a couple jitters when I get up there at the plate, but it's going to be pretty exciting.
And Frazier's played with the White Sox and the Yankees, now the Mets. Jay Bruce, the Mets, the Indians, now the Mets again. And they'll square off against their former team here tonight on Fox Sports Ohio. When we come back, time for the lineups, and we get you set for first pitch as the Reds look for a win tonight to open this series against the Mets.
Cincinnati Reds. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
As of a few days ago, 32-year-old Homer Bailey making his way to the mound tonight, making his 8th start of the season, the 200th of his major league career. The Mets lineup presented by Nissan. Conforto, Cespedes, Jay Bruce to start it. Cabrera at second, Todd Frazier at third, Adrian Gonzalez at first, Lobaton, the pitcher Conlon batting in the number 8 spot, and Rosario, the shortstop, will bat ninth. Mets come in 17 up, 15 down. And the Reds, of course, at 8-26. First pitch, ball one, and we are underway. Mickey Callaway, a first-year major league manager. Only 43 years young. Grew up not too far from here outside of Memphis, Tennessee. That ball is drilled down the left field line and well hit. And that is a home run to begin the ball game just inside the fair pole for Michael Conforto.
Part of the reason Conforto got off to such a slow start this year, the inability to drive the ball the other way. A little bit of injury issue coming out of spring training. Well, he drove that ball and it was the other way. Stayed right on top of it.
It's a 9th home run in 39 innings so far this year, surrendered by Homer Bailey. And now he will turn his attention to a guy who's known as one of the premier sluggers in the game for many, many years, Yoenis Cespedes. 7 home runs so far this season, 26 knocked in. Big swing and a miss on a fastball. Homer Bailey tonight becomes the 25th pitcher to make 200 starts in a Cincinnati Reds uniform. He needs 8 strikeouts to tie Johnny Vandermeer for the 6th most by a Red through the first 200 starts, and that goes back well over 105 years. Bailey had the first start of the year, which was very, very good on opening day. Of course, the Reds lost that one 2-0 to Max Scherzer in the Washington Nationals. That ball is blistered into left field, and that will be caught by Adam Duvall. Boy, that's a nice running play.
Well, when you look at a position player, for the most part, Tom, you're always looking at their batting average or the ability to hit the ball out of the ballpark, especially in a left fielder as Duvall. But Duvall has been nothing short of where he's always been in left field defensively, which is Gold Glove caliber.
Tonight is Jay Bruce's 3rd game coming back to Great American Ballpark as a visiting player. September of 16 with the New York Mets towards the tail end of that year, the same year he was traded. Of course, he came up with the Reds until 2008. And then dealt on August the 1st, 2016 to the Mets.
And whether the guy is best friends with Homer or whether they were enemies in the clubhouse, you always want to pitch well or hit well against a former teammate.
3 in a row out of the strike zone. Big shift put on the left-handed batting Jay Bruce. Just underway, a leadoff home run on the 2nd pitch of the game by Michael Conforto. And that's a 4-pitch walk to Jay Bruce. Take a look at the Reds defensively behind Homer Bailey tonight, presented by Ford. They'll go with Duvall, Hamilton, Winker, left, center, and right. The regular cast of characters in the infield now with Scooter Gennett healthy and playing again 3 days in a row, and the Gold Glove winning catcher Tucker Barnhart hanging the signs for Homer Bailey. The most consistent New York Met, offensively speaking so far right now, is a cleanup hitter who digs in Asdrubal Cabrera. .333 batter, 10 doubles, 6 home runs, 21 runs batted in.
I don't know that we've ever played the Mets as a Reds organization since I've been back here that this guy hasn't hit all the time.
Of course, we saw him with Cleveland when you first came back in the 2007 year as part of the broadcast team.
You throw him a fastball, even if you shoot it out of a bazooka, he can hit it. The changeup, that's a different story.
A .333 batting average for Cabrera, good enough for 2nd best in the National League, 9th best in the major leagues. In the air, short left down the line, and that is a foul ball. Couple of inches maybe.
Whew. I think that fooled Adam Duvall as he was hustling after the baseball. Of course, at that point, if you can't get there, you can't get there. You're trying to figure out, all right, how am I going to play this? And fortunately for Bailey and the Reds, it was a couple of inches foul.
Cabrera has the 8th best slugging percentage in the National League, 17 extra base hits, and has scored 22 runs. What a start for the one-time shortstop turned second baseman. There's a changeup you were talking about, or the splitter in this case with Bailey that fooled him, and that's 2 away in the inning.
If you're a great fastball hitter more times than not, you've got to cheat for it to get to it. And that looked like a curveball break when in fact it was a split finger. 80 miles an hour, that's 15-mile-an-hour drop from the previous fastball.
So now Todd Frazier, you know, with Frazier and Bruce coming back here, the last time 2 former Reds, both with at least 600 games in a Reds uniform, played for the same Reds opponent in Cincinnati. You've got to go all the way back to 2003, and in fact it was the very first game ever played here when Reggie Sanders and Pokey Reese came back with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, we mentioned that Bruce has played in 2 games here a couple of Septembers ago. Tonight is the first game ever for Todd Frazier returning to Great American Ballpark as a visiting player.
And you can already see Bailey trying to do too much with Jay Bruce. 4 consecutive pitches out of the strike zone. And it appears the same is following here with Frazier at the plate.
And throughout the telecast tonight, we'll bring you some of the comments that both players made in interviews with them before the game today about coming back to Cincinnati. So that's now 7 straight pitches out of the strike zone to Bruce and now Frazier. Rio green light, and Frazier pops it up to the right side. Votto's got it, and that's all for the Mets in the opening inning. But early damage done. The home run by Conforto, and making his major league debut, P.J. Conlon, when we return. Good note, his lineup presented by Nissan as Winker in right, Peraza at short, Votto at first, Suarez at third, Jeanette at second, and Duvall in the 6th hole in left field. Barnhart, Bailey, and Hamilton the latter third. This young man, P.J. Conlon, 24 years young, was born, believe it or not, in Belfast of Northern Ireland. His family moved to California. That's where he grew up. He's had back-to-back excellent years in the minor leagues until this year, Cowboys. Numbers weren't so great at AAA Las Vegas.
Yeah, 2016, the Mets minor league pitcher of the year. But if you pitch good in A-ball, you pitch not as good, but still good in AA, and then you continue to tail off as you get to AAA, that doesn't quite bode well for you. You have to make adjustments as you move up the ladder.
Jesse Winker, the batter, a count of 1 ball and 1 strike. Winker checks in at 287 without a home run, has 10 runs batted in, and on base percentage of up over 400 so far to begin this year. Jam shot pop up. Easy for Conforto, who homered leading off the game, and that's the first out here in the bottom of the first inning, and the first out in the career of P.J. Conlon. The defense behind him, presented by Ford. Bruce in right, Cespedes in left. You've seen Conforto. Frazier and Gonzalez on the corners. Cabrera at second. Rosario, a young shortstop. And Lobaton behind the plate, the former Washington National. Well, we saw that man wearing a Reds uniform at that very spot for so many, many years. Strike one to Jose Peraza.
Well, when you're making your first major league start, you get that first out of the way. That's a major deep breath. I'm telling you, slows that heartbeat down a little bit.
Now, where were you, Cowboy, when you made your major league debut?
I was in Atlanta, of all places.
Closest to where you grew up.
Closest
of any
to
major
where
league
I grew
city.
up, right? And did not realize that I could actually get tickets. And back then, the team paid for them. And once I found that out, every family member that I'd ever met or been to a reunion, they were at the ball game.
So how did the first inning go? You were pitching out of the bullpen.
I was.
And how did it go?
I didn't throw a strike the first 3 pitches. And then Andres Thomas was swinging 3-0 and hit an absolute laser shot to Jose Uribe at shortstop, which one of the hardest balls I think I had ever given up in my life at that point in time. I couldn't believe he swung 3-0, and I couldn't believe Uribe caught it. I thought, wow, was it that easy up here?
Peraza lifting a fly ball Jay Bruce's way in right field, and that's out number 2. Well, here comes Joey Votto, and it seems like whatever team the Reds are playing, we're giving Votto's numbers. Bringing the energy, brought to you by IGS. That .418 on base percentage in his career against the Mets is second among all active players against New York. And if you're wondering, he is second to, that would be Andrew McCutchen.
I think that's the toughest part for a young pitcher. At least it was for me, facing guys that have already made a huge name for themselves in the big leagues, like Conlon facing Votto here. I can remember when Dale Murphy stepped into the batter's box. I thought, oh man, I've been watching this guy for 14 years just embarrass people. What am I going to do? I got him out.
Oh, come on. How'd you strike him out?
No,
what'd you do?
There were not many strikeouts on that day. Just a long fly ball. I think Brett Butler ran into the center field wall trying to catch it. But I sure was happy.
Brett needed the next 2 days off after being chased for that ball, but he caught it. 2-1 to Votto. Swings and misses. And by the way, the 14 home runs Votto has against the Mets are the most he has against any team not inside the Reds National League Central Division. So he's had really good success against teams, by and large, not all of them, that have had pretty doggone good pitching. Conlon looking in, getting a sign from his catcher Lobaton, and the pitch is outside, ball 3.
I think the toughest part to learn when you get to the big leagues is when you leave a ball in the middle of the plate, it's considered a mistake. And when you're coming up, whether it's high school, college, or even in the minor leagues, that's considered a pretty good pitch as long as it's down. But up here, you leave the ball in the middle of the plate. More times than not, Tom, they do not miss it. And they just hit it right on the screws. And that has a tendency to either make you better, where you can locate the ball in and out, or you get a little intimidated. And if you're intimidated, it's really hard to get your confidence back.
So a 2-out walk to Joey Votto, so that on-base percentage for him continues to move upward against the New York Mets. And here is Eugenio Suarez. Suarez returned home off the last road trip on an absolute roll, and he brought that into the first couple of games of this homestand. Cooled off a little bit since, 4 of 20 so far through the 6 games, and he started every one of them, although he does have 10 runs batted in.
Now that is a pitch there. That pitch down at the very bottom of the strike zone for Conlon, especially with the changeup and the slider. If he can get that as a called strike over and over again, that's where he's got to stay.
Jay Bruce is weighing right, and this should end the first inning. So for Mr. Conlon, welcome to the big leagues. He'll walk off the mound at the end of 1 with a 1-0 lead. Here in Cincinnati, see the sunshine fading away over on the west side of town. Beautiful night. Adrian Gonzalez in his first year as a Met. Boy, what a career this guy has had. Among all active players, 9th most hits, 6th most doubles, over 300 home runs, 8th most, and he's already knocked in nearly 1,200 runs in his career. And boy, Homer Bailey does not like seeing Adrian Gonzalez.
Well, there were times for Adrian Gonzalez, whether it be in San Diego or in a Dodger uniform, he was as good a hitter as it got. Not only batting average, but he hit the ball out of the ballpark. I mean, he was just flat dangerous.
I mean, you see the 314. I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility to say if he'd have been in anywhere else but San Diego, that number probably says 384, 394.
I would agree with that.
But in his career, 6 of those home runs have come against Homer Bailey, and they've never played in the same division. 25 at bats for Gonzalez against Bailey, 6 home runs and 10 runs batted in.
The key for Gonzalez, Tom, is he has always been an outstanding off-speed hitter. Now, not many hitters look for breaking balls in the middle of the strike zone or look for a split finger, especially early in the count. This guy has the ability to fight off a tough fastball and still center up a breaking ball, change up, split finger type.
1 ball and 2 strikes on Gonzalez, and there's a laser into center field, a base hit. So 12 of 26 now is Adrian Gonzalez against Homer Bailey.
You look at where Tucker Barnhart is setting up here. He's setting up and away, and this pitch is down and in. And when you miss by that far on location, number one, it tells me Bailey's trying to throw the ball too hard to ride the ball up and away. But when you miss that far, more times than not, you're going to get hit hard, and that was a rocket.
The Mets are down to their number 3 catcher on the depth chart from where the season began. They had to bring up Lobatone from the minor leagues. And now a conference on the mound between Tucker Barnhart and Homer Bailey. Travis d'Arnaud is their regular catcher. They're going to miss him the entire year. Already out with an arm injury.
And they will probably lose him for a significant portion of 2019 with the Tommy John return. Kevin Plawecki has always been the backup. But when you're talking about you can't wait till your backup returns, that should tell you the strife that the Mets are having from a catching standpoint. Then you go back to, well, why don't you go out and get someone? Why don't you make a trade? When everybody knows you have to have a catcher, they hold you ransom.
Swing and a miss, 2-2. Well, look, you know, there were some of the Mets people talking earlier today, just those who follow the team regularly, and you know, even inquiring about a guy like Devin Mesoraco. They're like, is he healthy? How does he look? Because everybody knows the situation the Mets are in right now. 3 balls and 2 strikes on Lobatone, who's never been known as much of a hitter. Only 39 at bats so far this year and 154 the batting average. Three and 2, the runner not going, and it's hammered down the right field line towards the corner. It will roll all the way to the wall. Gonzalez has not run well. They're going to hold him at third on a double by Lobatone, and the Mets have him at second and third with nobody out.
Even a 154 batter at this level, if it's in the center of the plate and it's thigh high, they have a much greater tendency to put barrel to baseball.
Well, now you have the pitcher due up. The Reds are going to bring what, the infield part of the way in, figuring there's no way even on contact that Gonzalez is going to be running. And there's a first pitch fastball, strike 1.
And there's no doubt, you look at the gun, Bailey is throwing the ball from 93 to 95, plenty of velocity to be able to execute outs, but not executing location with his pitches.
0-2.
That's just being a pitcher and saying, all right, first fastball I see, I'm going to get a chance. I'm hacking.
That one comes back to the screen. Everybody's going to stay put after it hit the bricks back there, or the padding in front of the bricks more accurately. And, you know, Gonzalez is a guy who's been around for a long time.
Well, where the ball hit, You weren't really sure if you're standing at third if it's going to hit right at the top of the wall and come right back to the catcher. And with no speed at third and no outs, you just don't. You got to make sure.
No feel at all for that off-speed stuff right now from Bailey, and he's gone from 0-2 to 2-2.
Well, that's the adjustment that you try to make. You hold on to the split finger too much on the previous pitch. It bounces to the backstop. You ease up the grip a little bit, and it just spins up around the chest.
Right back to the mound. Bailey will bluff the throw to third. He'll get the out at first, so that's out number one, and the runners don't advance. And now it'll be the shortstop, Ahmed Rosario. Now, one thing about Rosario, this guy's up there to swing the bat. He's only walked 4 times in well over 100 plate appearances this year. He walked 3 times in over 170 last year. And he's up there hacking. Made his first opening day roster this season. Played 45 games for the Mets last year once they brought him up from AAA Las Vegas. In the air, will bring in a run as Hamilton prepares for the throw to third. That's where the throw will go. Not in time there. Scoring is Gonzalez, and the Mets have scored single runs in each of the first 2 innings for a 2-0 lead.
Another pitch that's just not well executed for Bailey there. You throw a ball by a guy up and in to a guy that has a slow bat, and then you spin a breaking ball. That's not where Homer wanted that pitch. He wanted it down off the plate for a swing and miss. It ends up in the middle, and it cost him a run.
So now Conforto, who homered on the second pitch of the game, snapping an 0 for 13 stretch. And really, for a guy who hadn't been around all that long, that's already his 7th career leadoff home run to start a game. There was a time where they were talking about this guy perhaps winning a batting title one day, but he's had a lot of shoulder problems. In fact, they weren't even expecting him to be ready for the regular season until roughly about right now. But he was there on opening day. In fact, homered in his first at bat of the season. Nothing at 2 the count on Conforto. Runner at third, 2 outs. We'll do it again.
Well, when Conforto is going right, Tom, he's driving the ball into that left center field gap. We saw the opposite field home run the first at bat of the ball game. Where he's had the problem is body leakage back towards the mound, rolling over pitches, or just flat missing them. And that comes down to the shoulder.
On the ground to Peraza. So Bailey at second and third with nobody out. He gives up 1, but the Mets lead by 2. in Northern Ireland, but his family moved to California, right outside Anaheim. And a whole pile of them have made the trip for this his major league debut tonight. They were thinking somewhere close to 20. How about that? He's the first Irish-born player in Major League Baseball since 1945, Joe Cleary, but only the third Irish-born player going back to 1916. Ah, yes, and the Irish flag proudly displayed by the Conlon clan. Straight up in the air off the bat of Scooter Gennett. Conlon got through a first inning where he issued a 2-out walk to Joey Votto, but that was all. And retires Scooter to open up the Reds' second inning with the Mets leading 2-0. MLB At Bat is your #1 Cincinnati Reds app. Customize your experience to catch every moment this year. Download MLB At Bat today. Well, Conlon's got to be feeling pretty good right now. It's not to suggest he's going to go 7-8 innings tonight of shutout baseball, but now you got an inning and a first out under your belt. He's throwing a lot of first pitch strikes here. And there's another one. Or do they call that a ball? It is a ball. Looked pretty good.
Well, the key for any young pitcher, you get through that first inning and get a chance to sit back down in the dugout. Gives you a little bit of a breather, lets that heartbeat settle down. But you get a gist here early of what type of pitcher P.J. Conlon is. He's not going to be overpowering. He's going to change speeds. Got a good changeup. He's got a good little cut fastball, slider type pitch that he'll use in on right-handed batters.
Gets another ball hit into the air. This one by Adam Duvall, and that's easy for Gonzalez. 2 away.
But as you and I were talking earlier, Tom, with P.J. Conlon, the AAA ball club for the Mets is in Las Vegas. If you're a changeup type of pitcher, you're going to give up a lot of fly balls. In Las Vegas, fly balls are home run. Ball carries dramatically more so there than probably any other AAA club.
Well, you look at the overall body of work for Conlon, and he's made 50 minor league starts. He's pitched in 24 games out of the bullpen, all in the Mets organization. He has a 2.6 ERA in 74 games. In 2015, he did not allow a single run in 17 games that he took the ball that year. Then in 2016, 23 starts, had a 1.6 earned run average. And then Cowboy mentioned, you know, a slight step back. Last year, he goes to Double-A Binghamton, but still had a very good ERA at 3.3. Pitched 136 innings, and then really a lot of crooked numbers in Las Vegas so far this year. But nobody's talking about that right now. They want to know when he's getting the chance with a big league club, what's he going to do? And believe me, outside of DeGrom and Syndergaard, the Mets are looking for anybody to try and get somebody out. Because in the games those two guys start, the starters' ERA are roughly 2.5. In all the other games everybody else starts, the starters' ERA is about 6.5. And that's his first major league strikeout. We go to the third. Mets lead 2-0. digging in to start tonight. High drive, left center field, racing back to the wall, Bourgeois. The Reds are National League Central Division champions.
How about that? September 28, 2010. A 3-2 walk-off win against the Astros for Jay Bruce and the Cincinnati Reds, clinching the first National League Central title since 1995. And that's on Jay Bruce's mind when he comes back here to Cincinnati tonight.
To feel like, you know, there will be a little part of, you know, history with the Reds with that home run and the things that, you know, I was able to, you know, so fortunate to be a part of here is something that I'll never forget.
Can you believe that's coming up on 8 years? Gentlemen, Tom, your call stands the test of time.
Well, I don't know about that part of it, but I can tell you, Brian, thank you for the kind words that, boy, it is hard to believe that has been 8 years ago.
You know, it's so refreshing to hear Jay Bruce talk about coming back. He didn't say what I was able to do here. He said what I was able to be a part of. That is a classy kid.
Well, he's always been a classy kid. That one hooked down a third base line by Cespedes. I mean, you know, I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. You know, Cowboy, there's certain kids you meet in this game, but that they just get it. I mean, they were raised the right way. And everybody has different backgrounds, and I'm not suggesting for a second that, you know, it's being judgmental about how one guy grew up, how another guy grew up, any of that kind of thing. But Jay Bruce's mom and dad, he's got a special needs sister. So, you know, this young man is
well-grounded.
He's a good kid.
He is well-grounded.
It's hard to believe he's not so much a kid anymore.
I know. When I said that, I thought, well, he's not really a kid now.
So here come the Mets yet again. They've scored single runs in each of the first 2 innings off Homer Bailey. They have 4 base hits. And here's Bruce, who walked his first time up. He has still not seen a strike from Homer Bailey. Walked on 4 pitches in the opening inning. And now does see a strike.
You keep Suarez at home just in case Cespedes, which will never happen, takes off for third, but you still have to guard against it. You can't just give him third base and let him walk there.
Bruce, of course, came up with the Reds in 2008, a 3-time All-Star, including his final year with the Reds. And during the time he was with the team, he played in the most games, hit the most home runs, knocked in the most runs, second in doubles, slugging percentage, and walks, second in those categories, and had the most triples, believe it or not, during that time frame, did Jay Bruce. Towering fly ball, well hit into right field, and Bruce launches one halfway into the deck in right. 4-0 New York.
Either a hanging curveball or a split finger that did not split. And that's a hanging curveball. And those go a long way.
It's Jay Bruce's 136th career home run in this ballpark. Only Joey Votto has more. Now Cabrera, strikeout victim, his first time up there. You see Votto 144. And Todd Frazier on that list as well.
Now that pitch was not as close as it appeared from the reactions of Asdrubal Cabrera, but you can see Cabrera, he loves to take that front shoulder over the plate. And you can see where Barnhart caught the ball. It was right about head high over the top of the head of the catcher.
The Mets come into this series having lost 6 consecutive games for the first time since May of last year. Not only a 6-game losing streak, but lost all 6 games of a homestand against Atlanta and Colorado. That's the first time they had ever done that, of 6 or more games since 2012. And let me tell you, as many of you know already, you play bad in front of the home folks in New York City, by about the 5th or 6th game, it can get pretty ugly.
About that 3rd game. About that 3rd game.
I'll never forget, I've never heard a team booed worse in my life than many years ago. Had a doubleheader on a Sunday afternoon at Old Shea Stadium. And it didn't matter which Met came to the plate. They got annihilated in the first game. And by the 2nd inning of the 2nd game, they were behind 5 or 6, 7-0. And I want to tell you, it never stopped from the home crowd. I can remember that day like it was yesterday. Oh boy.
Yeah, you play up in that Northeast area, they will let you have it. The only place that I don't see that happening much is in Baltimore. But if you're in Philly or either of the New York clubs, oh, better pack a lunch.
Boston.
Boston, that's right.
Yeah, Baltimore and D.C. seem to be a little less abrasive, if you will. Of course, you know, there aren't as many born and raised Washingtonians, if you will, as there are. I mean, you know, New York.
Right.
Yeah, there are people from all over the world. There's no question about that. And the size of the city will certainly tell you that. But there are a lot of folks in greater New York, like there are here in Cincinnati, that if not born here, born and raised here, they grew up a Mets fan or a Yankees fan their whole lives.
And I don't think you can ever question the passion of a Mets or Yankees fan, a Red Sox fan, or a Phillies fan. Whether they're winning or losing, there is some serious passion. They are going to let you have it, whether it's by applause or whether it's by boo.
That's right.
Because when you're on top, you're the tippy top of the mountain. And when you're on the bottom, oh boy.
I mean, we saw that prove positive during that Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl celebration this year. I mean, that was just unbelievable. And of course, that franchise never won a Super Bowl. They had played in Super Bowls, but never won one. Would have been fun to be old enough for that '69 Mets team. Now, they hadn't been around very long. Of course, they were an expansion club just a number of years before, had one of the worst teams in the history of baseball. There's a line drive at Duvall. Oh, my goodness. What a play by Adam Duvall on a sinking liner, and takes away extra bases from the one-time Red Todd Frazier. How about that?
Second time that we have seen Duvall make a fine running catch. This one, he leaps to his feet, backhand style, as he leaves his feet. You don't catch that. That's definitely a double and maybe more. Great play.
And there's strike one on Adrian Gonzalez. He singled and scored in the Mets' second inning.
And it's not like Duvall is trying to do extra because he's not swinging the bat very well. This is how that kid plays all the time.
Yep. Some of the Mets guys were asking us before the game about, you know, Duvall and the slow start offensively, but, you know, you always have to follow up. Yep, he's struggling, but he will never phone it in, and he is an outstanding defender. He's among the best left fielders on defense in the entire National League.
I don't think I can say that I've ever seen him take a bad at bat or a bad situation at the plate into the field. Just always seems to be on his game, throwing to the right bases. hustling all the time. And this is not a guy that has phenomenal speed. He just gets great jumps, and he looks like he has great speed in the outfield.
One ball and 2 strikes on Adrian Gonzalez. Nowhere near the strike zone to even a count. 4-0 New York. Home run by Conforto in the first inning. Couple of hits, a sac fly in the second from Rosario, and then a 2-run big fly by Jay Bruce here in the third. And this ball is launched into right center. It's 5-0 New York. 7 career home runs in 27 career at-bats for Adrian Gonzalez against Homer Bailey. My goodness.
Well, I mentioned the prowess of Gonzalez to stay on the off-speed pitches. Even though he may have lost a little bit of quickness at the plate with a fastball, that's a split finger that he just crushed out of here.
So now Lobaton, a 3-run New York Mets third inning. This is a team that has just been struggling so much on offense. The Mets have scored 77 runs in their last 25 games. All right, 20 games. But bear in mind, 25 of the 77 came in 2 games. So you take the other 18, they've averaged less than 3 runs per game. They have that many in this inning. Lobaton hooked a double down the right field line his last time up, and it's 0-2 on him. Here's the 0-2 pitch. Limited schedule involving National League clubs tonight. In fact, only 3 other straight up National League games are underway in Philadelphia. Phillies a 3-0 lead over the Giants. Marlins will be in Chicago. The Nationals will be in San Diego, and the Cardinals will host the Twins in interleague baseball. Couple of home runs, one by Bruce, the other by Gonzalez in the New York third. 5-0 Mets in front.
at Fox Sports Ohio on Instagram when you can. And if you'd seen Twitter earlier today, you would have noticed that Todd Frazier, upon his return to Cincinnati, baseball players, creatures of habit, hit up his favorite breakfast spot, the Bluebird Cafe in Norwood. Frazier headed back to his old haunts. And here back tonight at Great American Ballpark for the first time in 3 years. Back in the hot corner down there for the Mets, guys.
Well, Todd Frazier was certainly one of the real fan favorites. And I'm not just talking about during his time here. I'm talking about really over the, well, you go back really to the beginning of this ballpark. And obviously he wasn't here yet. But one of the real popular Reds. Great with the people. Great personality. Told it like it was. When times were good, he was always smiling. When times are bad, he'd let you know about it. Homer Bailey will lead things off here in the third in a ground ball to short. And that's the first out here in the Cincinnati third inning with the Mets in front 5-0 in game 1 of 3. Long way to go in this one. It's not like you can just file it away. I mean, you're only in the bottom of the third inning. Now you got to find a way to keep the Mets from scoring every inning, and that's something they've managed to do so far against Bailey.
But you also can't, if you're Jim Riggleman, go to your bullpen every single night in the 4th inning. You can't do it.
Billy Hamilton lifts one into deep left field, and that ball will fly into the first row. A home run by Hamilton.
Well, how about that? That's now a 6-game hitting streak for Billy Hamilton.
In fact, Hamilton during this homestand is now 7 for 16 with 2 doubles, 4 walks, and now a home run. So maybe things are starting to get turned around for the Red center fielder. So now the rookie Jesse Winker off to a real nice start so far this year. He popped up into center field his first time up. And our Lowe's whole team together shows you among all major league rookies, Winker #1 so far in batting average, and right there in on base percentage as well.
But I think if the Reds really had their druthers, and I think any team would do this, if you had Billy Hamilton getting on base at the pace that Winker is, you'd like to have Hamilton in the top spot, giving you some semblance of stolen base threat, and put Winker in a place where he's got a chance to drive in more runs.
You know, though, Paul Daugherty, of course, of the Cincinnati Enquirer, wrote this column a few days ago, and it really is. It's a very, very interesting debate because Hamilton, when he does get on, he scores runs.
Right.
And, you know, you look at a guy like Winker who has an on-base percentage of up over 400. He has scored 10 runs. Billy Hamilton has an on-base percentage of 320 and has scored double the number of runs. So, you know, you say to yourself, yeah, the goal is to get on base. That's a nice play by the Mets shortstop Rosario.
Let's talk about this some more when
we'll do that. But isn't it a player's job to score runs? And Billy does that with his second home run of the year. The Reds are on the board.
Hats off for heroes, because no matter where you serve or when you served, we stand ready to serve all military families.
Welcome back to Great American Ballpark, where the Mets bat against Homer Bailey here in the top of the fourth inning. 5 runs, 6 hits for the New Yorkers. The Reds 1 run, 1 hit on a Billy Hamilton home run. Making his major league debut tonight on the mound, P.J. Conlon. He bounced out to the pitcher, his first big league at bat. Jam with a fastball, 1 ball, 1 strike.
Well, at this point for the Reds, you're just trying to figure out any way to put a 0 on the board and at least stop the bleeding momentarily.
And there is a bouncing ball that scoots by Peraza, and yes, the Conlon clan will celebrate even more. His first major league hit.
Dad's got to be saying, that's why we worked on it in the backyard, huh?
That's exactly right.
That's why we worked on it in the backyard.
Well, I can promise your mom was right in there, too. You know, whether it's a visiting player or not, having shots like those of any player. And Cowboy, you bring up a great point. You think of all the sacrifice of all of those to help that young man get to where he was. Whether it was, you know, dad missing a day of work here or there, maybe mom doing the same, maybe having to scoot out early, maybe spending all day on a Saturday or a Sunday out away at some tournament, staying in a Holiday Inn on the road. And, you know, I don't know what their family situation means-wise is or was, but you know, the bottom line is that it costs money when you're traveling around and playing baseball and travel ball and all those kinds of things. And you have other siblings as well. And
especially in this day and age where you've got the majority of families that are 2-income households. You're working all day as a dad. Mom's working all day. You're trying to get home to get kids to practice. And then when mom and dad are ready to have a little bit of downtime for a weekend, you're rocking. I mean, you're on the road, especially if you're playing travel baseball, and that's really where it's at today.
Well, we didn't even mention just mom getting dinner on the table, or dad getting it on the table. This ball is tattooed. Rosario just missing a home run.
And this is another breaking ball that just spins right in the middle of the plate. And that's really been the story here in the early going for Homer Bailey. Location is just not where it's been in some of the starts that we've seen earlier this year. He's been in the middle of the plate more times than not.
Just brought up from the minor leagues today, Jackson Stevens taking the roster spot of Kevin Shackelford, so Jackson will start cranking it up. Stevenson has been used as a starting pitcher down at AAA Louisville, and today was his scheduled day to start. So if they need him to come up and who knows, pitch the rest of this game, he's probably up for the challenge.
Well, Stevens has been a starter everywhere he's been since he was drafted out of high school. Now, when he's come to the big leagues, more times than not, the Reds have used him out of the bullpen. He does have a few major league starts. But his duty here in this recall is to be the long man. And I would think that we're heading in that direction rapidly.
Single by the pitcher, double by the number 9 hitter. Now back to the top of the order already for the 3rd time in this game. Conforto homered on the 2nd pitch of the game, just inside the fair pole down the left field line, and then Homer got him on a ground ball to the shortstop Peraza, ending the second. Mets making a bid to score in each of the front 4 innings. And they have second and third with none out. Started 2, did not go around. 2-0. Remind me to get back with you. Second and third with nobody out would not be the time to do it, but I don't want to lose sight of it because I will forget about it. That conversation that we were starting to embark upon, you know, on base percentage as opposed to number of runs scored and how many times a player scores, and the comparison with Winker and Hamilton, who have shared some of the leadoff duties this year. Down the left field line. Duvall's got it. He has an excellent arm. Look at that throw.
Not only the throw, but how quickly he got it out of his glove. Not even thinking about it with Conlon at third base. It's one of the things, as we saw a couple of days ago, Jim Riggleman had the outfielders on the field. They were working on cutoffs and relays, and one of his big spots that he was talking to the outfielders, get the ball out of your glove as soon as you catch the baseball. That paralyzes the runner.
All right, so second and third, 1 out. Straight away center field. Cespedes drives one that chases Hamilton to the warning track. Conlon gets his first major league hit and now scores his first major league run. 1 in the first, 1 in the second, 3 in the third, and so far 1 here in the fourth for the Mets.
Well,
I thought Cespedes was coming out of his shoes on that swing.
You almost have to feel good that that was a line drive rather than a pitch that he was able to elevate. He got out in front of it just enough, and another breaking ball that was just spinning right in the middle of the strike zone.
Now Jay Bruce, ball 1. Jay has been on twice. He walked on 4 pitches in the first inning and clubbed the 2-run home run halfway into the right field deck his last time up. Rolls over this one to his old buddy Votto, and Votto will win the race to the bag to end the inning. Middle of the fourth, Mets lead 6-1.
Kroger meal deal. Check concession stands throughout the ballpark for the Kroger meal deal, which includes a hot dog, a bag of chips, 16-ounce Coke, and during this homestand, a Slim Jim. Make sure you get your Kroger meal deal today. Well, this was the scene pregame at Great American Ballpark as these men and women round the warning track. They were part of one of the biggest weekends of the spring in downtown Cincinnati that just ended. Caitlin Keene throwing out the first pitch, won the women's division of the Flying Pig Marathon. Aaron Viets, the men's division. More than 6,000 people ran the full marathon this year, guys.
That's an extraordinary accomplishment. Congratulations to all of those who trained and put in a lot of hard work to get ready for that. That is a serious commitment. Joey Votto pops up on the first pitch. All right, Cowboy, let's get back to this thing now real quick, all right? We're talking about Winker and Hamilton in roughly the same number of at-bats, batting in the one hole as opposed to somewhere else. Winker a few more starts in a leadoff spot. Winker's on-base percentage is about 180 points higher than Hamilton.
Right.
But Hamilton has scored double the number of runs, with a batting average at least going into tonight was roughly 85 points less than Winker.
Well, the issue that you have with an athlete with the speed of Billy Hamilton is that he can put himself in scoring position without having to bunt him over, without having to move him over, or sacrificing an out. I think that is the key for athletes that have speed at the top of your order. That way you've got a guy like Joey Votto or Suarez or Jeanette coming to the plate and hitting.
That ball find a gap off the bat of the Eugenio Suarez. And he's in there with a one-out stand-up double.
And that's a spot just particularly with that swing. If Suarez is at the plate and there's 2 outs and Billy Hamilton is at first base and you don't want to take a chance on a steal, a double right there scores Billy Hamilton standing up. Every other player, they're standing at third base because you can't take the risk with 2 outs. That's what gives the specialty to Billy Hamilton and what makes it so important for him to be able to get on base with some semblance of regularity. Does he have to have a 400 or a 380, 350 on base percentage? No, but you would like for him to be able to get on at least around 300, 310, 320, because that's going to mean that many more runs for you because you give your guys a chance to hit with a runner in scoring position.
Runner at second base, 1-0 on Scooter Jeanette.
Ideally, Tom, what you'd like to have is a guy that can get on base and put the ball in play with regularity like Jesse Winker. That would have the speed of Billy Hamilton.
There's no question.
But we don't get to blend the two together. But Winker would better serve this club in the long run, being a guy that would hit down in the order because he has such a great ability to drive the ball.
This ball driven hard into left center field, and that will find the gap. So back-to-back doubles by Suarez and Scooter. And it's a 4-run game, 6-2, New York in front.
I think in the long run for Jesse Winker, if you gave him an opportunity to hit in RBI situations where he didn't have to just concentrate on making contact or just getting on base, you put him in a more of a responsible role in a, say, a 5th spot or in a 3rd or 2nd spot in the lineup where you're hitting with runners in scoring position a lot. I think you would start to see some home runs and a heck of a lot more doubles from Jesse Winker. But hitting in the number 1 spot, he's shortening the swing a little bit. He's trying to be a leadoff hitter, which means he's just trying to get on base. I think it takes away a little bit from his talent.
It's interesting. Very interesting.
But it's the need that the Reds have right now.
Right. Adam Duvall now the batter. He popped up to the first baseman his first time up. Back-to-back doubles. with one out here in this Reds fourth, but now a fly ball to right. Scooter's going to tag up, and he will coast into third, standing up 2 away in the inning.
There are many folks out there, Tom, that say, well, Jesse Winker's not going to hit any home runs at the big league level. We saw a little bit of different Jesse Winker in September of last year. I mean, he was driving the ball with regularity and hitting home runs. I think Winker is one of those types of players. As he gets more comfortable at the big league level, he's going to hit some home runs if that's the spot that you decide to put him in.
Now Tucker Barnhart. He takes inside, ball 1.
But I would think that at the major league level, you're in the business of trying to get the utmost from each individual player.
Broken bat pulled fair down the third base line. So it'll be a third double in the inning. And the Reds all of a sudden within 3 runs. They've scored twice here in the fourth. Tucker knocking in his 9th run of the year, his 6th extra base, or 6th double, his 8th extra base hit. And now Homer Bailey will be taken down for a pinch hitter. It's going to be Alex Blandino. So Bailey lasts all of 4 innings here tonight, and boy, they hit him hard. I mean, there's just no other way to describe it.
Seemed like Homer had a good fastball here tonight, but the secondary pitches normally, especially the split finger, which has been very good for him, at least in his first 6 starts of the year, just was not there. The slider was not there, and it results in a short outing.
Now, for the first time all night long, the Mets have action in their bullpen. They have a right-hander, Paul Sewald, getting loose. The second time now through the batting order, the Reds have 3 doubles. They've scored 2 runs. Blandino has played in 5 games, 3 of them as a starter on this home stand. He has 2 hits in 11 at-bats, including his first major league home run.
Well, if you're Mickey Callaway in the Mets dugout and you've lost 6 in a row and you've got a 6-0 lead, or really 5-0 lead at that point in time, the last thing that you want to have happen is give the Reds a chance to come back in this one. I don't care if you have to burn every guy in your bullpen. You've got to figure out a way to stop the losing streak now if you're Mickey Callaway. Second time around for the Reds, at least here in this inning. They've been a little bit more patient, slowed down a little bit at the plate, and they've been able to square up some of these off-speed pitches from young P.J. Conlon.
And there's ball 4 to Blandino. And that's going to be all for Mr. Conlon. Wow, they're going to come get him right now. I mean, these Mets have lost 6 in a row after all, and they've given him a chance here to get out of this inning. So in his major league debut, he lasts 3 2/3 innings. And his family and friends so excited. This will be our Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. It's brought to you by Miller Lite. Reds all of a sudden trying to create some good moments after falling behind big right from the get-go. They've managed 3 runs over the last 2 innings. They trail by 3, and the right-hander Paul Sewald takes over on the mound for the 10th time this year.
Well, Sewald throws strikes. He's only walked a couple of batters. Look at the strikeout numbers. 20 strikeouts in the 17 2/3 innings. He's on there for one reason, and that's to get Billy Hamilton back to the Reds dugout.
Hamilton turns around to bat left-handed. He hit the home run, his only at bat tonight from the right side against Conlon. Billy left-handed is batting 77 points higher as a left-handed batter than he is as a right-handed batter. Straight up in the air, and this should end the inning. The Reds come up with a couple of runs, and we've got a ball game. We're on our way to the 5th. Mets in front, 6-3. Brought to you by Cincinnati Children's, changing the outcome together. And by your local Ford dealer, Ford. Go further. A lot of crooked numbers being put up so far in this one. Homer Bailey knocked out of the game after 4 innings. And he'll give way, just called up from the minor leagues today, to the right-hander Jackson Stevens.
Stevens seemed to pitch better out of the bullpen for the Reds last year than he did out of the rotation. It seemed like the second time through the lineup, hitters started to catch up a bit with his ability to pitch backwards, that slider early and fastball late.
Well, right into the heart of the batting order, Cabrera to be followed by Frazier, and then Adrian Gonzalez for Jackson Stevens. Stevens is still very young. He'll turn 24 in a little less than a week from now, a handful of days. He grew up, still makes his home down in Alabama, Oxford, Alabama.
That's just south of Talladega, in case you needed.
Which was front and center just recently.
Right, in case you needed to know that.
Yes. Graduated from Oxford, Alabama High School, and the Reds drafted him in the 18th round in 2012. Pitched in 7 games, 4 starts as a Red a year ago. Really had a couple of really nice seasons in 2015 and 2016 as a starter in the Reds system. Cowboy mentioned he's always been a starter, except when the Reds brought him up and pitched him into 3 games out of the pen last year. Hamilton chasing it down, and Billy will get there in front of the wall. Every single night he's making those kind of plays when he's in there.
That was a long way to run for one Billy Hamilton. But don't you love it when you get to see a ball that looks like it's going to be a sure double, and Billy somehow figures out a way to outrun the baseball. Not too many folks can do that.
You're right about that.
I think for Jackson Stevens, he has what it takes physically to pitch here at the big league level, especially if you're talking about out of the bullpen. The key for this kid is just consistency. He's got a good breaking ball. He's got a fastball that has movement. You can't try to be perfect up here, but you can't leave the ball in the middle of the plate either.
Good location on that fastball there on the inside corner, just under the hands.
And the art that Stevens possesses that a lot of young kids do not is he can throw his breaking ball for a strike a lot of times in any count. And I think that's from the neck up. It's not that it's always going to happen, but his thought process is I can throw my slider anytime. And that's half the battle. If you don't believe you can do it, it's not happening.
Well, that's one thing we saw from this guy last year is Cowboy, you know, some people I think misunderstand it when you use this phrase, but this young man came up here and clearly was not afraid of the competition level. You agree with that?
I agree. And it's not just being scared or being anxious. There are a lot of guys that are nervous. I can remember Dennis Eckersley saying, well, I was afraid every time I went out there, but it motivated me to compete. That's all you're asking for, is to get on the mound and compete within the strike zone. Because if you throw 4 balls that are 3 inches off the plate, they might look real good and they might be 97, but it's still a walk. And the guys that have baseball gloves out there that are playing behind you, there is no defense to a walk. There are days where you're just not going to have your best stuff. You're going to walk some guys. I understand that.
Well, Gonzalez has done it again. Boy, when this guy comes to Cincinnati, he'll fight anybody on his team to get in the lineup. His numbers in this town are ridiculous. Tonight he's gone single homer in his first 3 times to the plate.
But it appears that the Reds scouting report coming into this ball game is to throw this guy breaking balls. That might be the absolute opposite of how you get this guy out. You have to be able to get the fastball on his hands. A breaking ball for a strike is Hammer City to this guy, and it's always been Hammer City to that guy.
Adrian Gonzalez in this ballpark is a .350 batter. Now listen to this a second. All right, we're talking about 32 games now. Okay, 32 games. He has 14 home runs, 13 doubles, and has scored 24 runs in 32 games.
Well, that's one of those times where you look at the lineup. If you're Adrian Gonzalez and you're playing in Cincinnati, if you're not in the lineup, that gives you cause to run into the manager's office and say, how can you not have me in the lineup today? I mean,
Well, that's why I said he'd fight somebody, because that means if somebody was put in the lineup, they wouldn't be able to play that night by the time he was finished with it. Look at that move. That's a good-looking pitch. In the air to left field, that'll back up Duvall, but he has room in front of the wall to make the play. So the Mets get a run back on another home run by Adrian Gonzalez and leads 7-3. Geico, 42-year-old Bartolo Colon hits a home run, the first of his major league career, and he became the oldest player to hit his first major league home run. I mean, we remember that like it was yesterday, right? Colon hitting that home run.
Unbelievable. How about the trot?
Let me ask you, did you, even though you were a reliever most of your career, Colon's been a starter, ever hit a home run in the big leagues?
I did not, but I did hit one off the wall in Atlanta that I thought was a home run. And what happened is when the ball hit the wall, I was still jogging around first base. Had it not been Lonnie Smith in left field, I would have been out at second base. But I did get a double, and I was happy that I got there.
Absolutely. Congratulations. I mean, that Bartolo Colon moment, and look, I mean, I've never watched the Mets a day in my life, right? Or, half the teams that Colon's ever played for, especially most of his career being over in the American League. But I remember the home run call on that, one of the Mets announcers, I can't remember which one. It might have been either Gary Cohn on television or Howie Rose over on the radio. I mean, it was played everywhere. And, of course, his nickname was the Big Sexy.
Well,
Bartolo Colon, one of the great nicknames of all time.
For a guy that had never hit a home run and had been around for that long, and let's face it, it's not like he's got a body of the Big Sexy. And then hit one out. I mean, that's just raw athletic ability.
No doubt about it. And he's still going.
I know.
Sinking liner that appeared to fool the center fielder, and Conforto able to still make the play. Well, that's a nice catch.
No doubt it fooled Conforto. The toughest play to make for any outfielder is that low liner that's right at you. Very difficult to judge. He started in, paused for a moment, It almost looked as though he wasn't sure if it was just going to come right to him or if he really had to turn it on. Well, he had to turn it on.
So the first two retired by the reliever Seawald, who got the final out of the fourth inning in relief of P.J. Conlon. And now he'll face Joey Votto, who has walked and popped up to the left fielder.
You know, when you're a pitcher, Tom, and you hit a ball and you don't feel it come off the bat and you look up and you think, oh, wow, all these thoughts and processes start coming into your head. I got a home run. I'm going to get one. You forget to run. And I'm not even halfway down the first baseline, and I can hear them screaming, run! Can you imagine the ball hit the wall and get thrown out at second base?
No, that would not have been good, especially with some of those guys you were playing.
Yeah.
Be a little different than some of the guys today.
That was a little hardcore back then.
Yes, it was.
They would have hurt me.
That was one of the real fun teams in the history of baseball. That group you had with the San Francisco Giants. Seawald a 1-2-3 fifth. Mets lead 7-3.
Saturday, May 19th, be one of the first 20,000 fans through the gates at the 7-10 game to get a Reds Garden Gnome. Presented by Cons. See your Reds take on the Cubs for as low as $10 for tickets. Go to Reds.com. Back at Great American Ballpark, Reds trail 7-3. Back upstairs to Tom, the Cowboy.
All right, Brian, great having you with us tonight from down in the Reds dugout. I mean, Brian is our Javier Baez. I mean, you can play him in left, you can play him in center, you can play him at right, you can play him at second, at short, at third, right, anywhere.
Booth, desk, dugout.
Just gets it done.
Just do it.
Just gets it done. So Brian will be with us during this entire series. Or am I wrong about that, Brian? Are you going to be downstairs the next couple of nights or just tonight?
No, you got it tonight, tomorrow night, and Wednesday afternoon. And yeah, they just put me in the lineup. I go where they tell me to go.
And just get the job done. Just get the job done. Top shelf all the way. Seawald gets a chance to bat here in the 6th inning. One away. Jackson Stevens beginning his 2nd inning of work in relief of Homer Bailey, who lasted 4 tonight. Gave up 6 earned runs. Bailey gave up 3 more home runs. And in 43 innings, he's given up 11 home runs so far this year. Seven of those have come in his last 4 starts. Rosario nearly homered his last time up. That ball went about 3/4 of the way up the wall in right center field. He's knocked in a run with a sac fly and has a double. This is a guy they're really waiting on to get things going. You know, all the talk about him coming up through the minor leagues and showed some promise last year. He's showing it tonight. That ball is scalded down the third base line. Second double of the night for Ahmed Rosario. So already batting for the 4th time tonight is the Mets leadoff batter, Conforto. He homered just inside the fair pole on the second pitch of the game by Homer Bailey. He has since grounded to short and flied out to left field. Mets have scored in every inning so far tonight. 1-1, 3-1-1.
And we saw Stevens earlier, and you made a comment about it, Tom. Two-seamer underneath the left-hander's hands, ran right back to the inside corner. We've not seen that pitch since that one.
Boy, Stevens just whiffed on that ball, and that's going to be an infield hit for Conforto. Of course, it seems like it's jumping on you when you're that close. Looked like he had a beat on it.
I thought so too. I thought that was going to be an easy play for Stevens, and the same thing for the base runner Rosario. He just flat missed it.
Well, it's got to seem though like it's coming 10,000 miles an hour when you're there on the mound.
It does, but it's easier to catch a ball that is to your left or right. Even your left actually easier than your right.
As a right-handed thrower.
Right, but Rosario did not move. He was actually going back to second base as the ball came to the mound.
Well, now they have the runner caught between third and home. Reds will execute this run down as Suarez makes a tag. Still trying to figure out how in the world Cespedes is still standing at first base. Conforto goes all the way to third.
Well, I'm sure that Cespedes would say my quad a little tight.
Yeah, good point. He had to leave the game yesterday. It's a very good point. I mean, the Mets have enough guys that are already nicked up. They don't need to lose Cespedes for an extended period, so you can probably understand why he's not busting it down there to second base. Not to make an excuse for him, but I guess I just did. Now Jay Bruce. Bruce a walk, a 2-run home run, and a ground ball to Joey Votto. Bruce now with 3 home runs this season for the Mets, 14 runs batted in. Of course, Bruce was a Met last year to start the season, played the first 103 games here and hit 25 home runs for him. Overall in the year, Jay hit 36 home runs, played 43 games in Cleveland, and knocked in 101 runs. Bruce had a nice postseason last year. It didn't last long. Everybody thought Cleveland would race right through at the minimum to the league championship series. They had the 2-0 lead over the New York Yankees, and you're thinking one more win and move on. But the Tribe, the best team during the regular season in the American League, lost the next 3. Bruce started all 5 games of that series, had a couple of home runs.
Well, you got to go back to the changeup here. Bruce has always been susceptible to the changeup middle away.
Came with a breaking ball down and in.
The fastball to Bruce that starts on the inside corner and runs back over the plate. That's a death sentence for a pitcher. Or the breaking ball that starts on the outside corner and comes back to the plate.
Came in with a fastball, nowhere near the strike zone, 3-2. Stevens trying to put up a goose egg here. Be the first one of those through the front 6. And after getting ahead at 1-2, a lot of nibbling and messing around going on.
Well, the problem that you
nowhere
have
near the zone
with that pitch sequence is you make a pitch to get to 1-2. That was a changeup running away from Bruce. He missed it by a foot. Never went back to the pitch. Just because you have a great slider doesn't mean that you throw everybody's sliders. Some guys just don't swing at those pitches, or it may not be perfect on that night.
It's hard to believe the best hitter in the Mets lineup steps to the plate 0 for 3 on a night where they have 7 runs and 11 hits through 5+ innings, but that is the case for Cabrera. Cabrera and Frazier are the only 2 Mets without hits in this game, and they bat 4 and 5 in the lineup. Oh, and 2.
Well, that's a pitch that Cabrera consistently has issues with. He's cheating for that fastball. You get the breaking ball that starts in the middle of the plate and bounces on top of the plate. He's going to commit because he's starting early. Now you leave that up about 2 or 3 inches, you can kiss the baby.
Nothing in 2 on Asdrubal Cabrera. Breaking ball that stays high. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
I'll throw that one again.
I was getting ready to say that's the one you're referring to.
That's the one I'm talking about.
But that didn't get enough of the plate.
No, it came out of his hand a bit early.
Mets have them loaded. And a 4-run lead here in the 6th inning. Hot smash down to Votto. He'll take it himself. And for the first time all night, the Mets don't score in an inning. 7-3 New York in front. This comic strip and cartoon with a special ticket package. It includes an exclusive Snoopy bobblehead. All the Peanuts characters will be at the ballpark. And by the way, the Snoopy bobblehead is only available with the purchase of this ticket package. So go to reds.com/theme. Suarez, a tapper, foul wide of third. One ball and two strikes. Seawald got the final out, stranding 2 in the 4th inning, and then at a 1-2-3 fifth. This guy's got good stuff. As soon as you say that, he gives up a long way to left field. It ain't that good. Suarez says not so fast.
I think you make a perfect point. Yes, he does have good stuff. It's not about physical tools. It is about execution of the physical tools. That was not a well executed pitch. It was a hanging breaking ball in the middle of the plate. And we've seen those tonight. They just go over the fence.
Well, what a year Suarez is having. Spent all that time on the disabled list, breaking his thumb the second weekend of the season when he got hit in the fractured thumb by Tyone of the Pirates. Healed so quickly, almost miraculously so. What a miracle that was. And then ever since he's come back, he's knocked in 11 runs on his homestand. 11. And this is the 7th game on it.
I really believe that was a great sign by the Reds. Signing Suarez to the deal that they did back in spring training. Great guy. He's made himself a great third baseman. And he can flat swing the bat.
And every day the guy wants to get better. He is so well liked inside that Reds clubhouse. Pitcher going to stay with him. Pretty athletic play right there. Well, for Red, it's a home run off that Toyota sign out by the Power Stacks tonight. Jonathan Dinius from Louisville, Kentucky will win that beautiful Tundra thanks to your Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Toyota dealers. How would that look down in Mississippi?
Well, there's a boatload of those bad boys where I live at. Is it Louisville or Louisville?
Well, you know, I mean, that's where you get into the whole thing. I mean, the folks down there, they like Louisville. And so I think a lot of us who go to pronounce the name of that town, we sort of acquiesce to what they would prefer.
I got you. Now, if you were in Mississippi, that would be pronounced Louisville. That's how we say it. Because there is a town in Mississippi and it's called Louisville and it's spelled exactly the same.
And not Louisville, it's Louisville.
Louisville.
Oh, Ville, pardon me. Okay, Louisville.
Kind of like Starkville.
Yep, that's right. That's where Mississippi State is, I believe.
Very good. Very good. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
How are they looking in baseball these days? I asked you a couple of weeks ago. You said they were starting to get it turned around. They on a good run again or no?
They're treading water. They got a little ways to go.
Oh, in one the count. And against a shift, Duvall. Looked like Seawald tried to drop down on him a little bit right there.
Good piece of hitting. Duvall recognizing that All three of the infielders, second baseman playing on the left field side of second. And you're right, that was a drop down, kind of a sinking fastball inside, and Duvall had already made up his mind he was going to try to shoot the ball into that second base hole. When you hit it where somebody's not, you don't have to hit it hard, you just have to hit it.
All right, so the Reds are down 3. We still have a long way to go. And here's Barnhart, 1 of 2, has struck out and doubled. And a strike 1 to Tucker.
This is one of those ball games for the Reds. You come back and snatch this one, especially after the runs the Reds gave up early. Oh, that's a nice win. I mean, the Reds gave up runs in the first 5 innings. At least one.
And yet they're still very much in this ball game, thanks to an offense that's come alive here the last 3+ innings. They got 1 in the 3rd, got a couple of runs in the 4th, and 1 so far, hoping for more in the 6th. Is it just me, or is Sewald almost changing his delivery about every 4th pitch? That one looked like it was more over the top.
Changing arm angles. When he is sinking the ball into a righty or away from a lefty, he will drop down a bit. That pitch he tried to ride up in the strike zone, so he came over the top, got that elbow out in front, got underneath it a bit.
0-2 on Barnhart, and that one sails up and away.
Now there are veteran pitchers that do what Sewald is doing here on purpose. We haven't seen Sewald much. Maybe this is just the inconsistencies that he has within his mechanical delivery.
Jam shot, sounded like he broke his bat. That's because he did.
And on that pitch there, you could see Sewald almost drop a little further down, but he came in on Barnhart with that pitch. And a lot of that arm fluctuation in the arm slot has to do with Sewald throwing across his body. In that little short snippet, you could see Sewald almost stepping towards the on deck circle on the 3rd base side. And when you throw across your body, it's very difficult to keep a consistent arm slot and release point.
Pretty good battle here, even though Tucker's still behind at 1-2 strikes.
I think what Tucker realizes right now is he's got a man behind him that can tie this bad boy up if he can get aboard. And that would be Scott Schebler.
And this time he hooks it into right field fair. And this will send Duvall on to 3rd. So all of a sudden the tying run will come to the plate. And as Cowboy mentioned, now you're looking at Scott Schebler.
Great battle at the plate by Tucker Barnhart. Many times it's not about whether you can hit the ball out of the ballpark. It's whether you can get aboard. Sometimes you pass the buck or you pass the baton to the next batter that's coming to the plate. But what this does is it applies extreme pressure not only to Sewald, who is now coming out of the ball game, but to the next guy that's coming out of the bullpen. You can't afford to make a mistake now if you're a Mets pitcher.
Tell you about the new pitcher when we come back. on the corners behind the home run with only one out. Seawald is gone, and Robert Gesellman comes on for the 16th time. He's been busy.
And you wonder, okay, why are you going to a right-hander when there is a left-handed power hitter coming to the plate? Well, left-handers are only hitting 179 against Gesellman.
And if you're wondering, Schebler this year is hitting, now granted, only 16 at-bats against left-handers, but he has 7 hits. Against right-handers, Schebler is batting .220.
Gesellman is playing in a danger zone, trying to start that fastball in and run it back over the inside corner. You make a mistake, booyah.
Came in there again and missed it. 2 balls and no strikes to the pinch hitter Scott Schebler. Stevens goes 2 innings, allows 3 hits and a run. In his 2018 debut, just called up before the game today to replace Kevin Shackelford. 2 balls and no strikes. Lined into left field. That's just bad luck. It's caught. Here comes the runner. The throw to the plate not going to be in time. Sac fly RBI. Say bad luck because Schebler hits that anywhere else, and there are people spinning all over the bases. But it is a 7-5 game.
There's no doubt Schebler hit that ball right on the screws. But as you said, Tom, he hit it right at the left fielder Cespedes.
And Cespedes has always been among the league leaders year after year after year in outfield assists, so you can't take for granted anything. Hamilton on the first pitch, a fly ball to center field, and that'll end the inning. But the Reds get a couple of runs, and we're marching on to the 7th. It's a 2-run Mets lead after the home run by Suarez to get it started in the 6th.
The summer of 2015, the All-Star game returned to Cincinnati, and Todd Frazier in the home run derby became just the 2nd player ever to win the derby on his home field, on his mind, as he's back here tonight as a member of the Mets.
A lot of memories, a lot of great moments for me, and you know, I think back at that home run derby here, man, it was special. You know, having my family on the field, winning for the city, and still got the trophy. I see it pretty much every day. It's in the house in a good spot, and like I said, it's something I'll never forget. And yeah, feels good to be back here. Maybe have a couple jitters when I get up there at the plate, but it's going to be pretty exciting.
What a night that was, and you think back, the players he faced in the home run derby. He beat Prince Fielder, Josh Donaldson, and then knocked off Jock Peterson in the final to take it home in front of the home crowd.
I got to tell you, Brian, I was fortunate enough to be asked by Major League Baseball to do the PA downstairs for that. Cowboy, I know you brought your family in for the game and went to the home run derby. And, you know, I was only sitting probably 12, 15 feet away from Frazier. And I got to tell you, you know, you think about at least from the time that I had the opportunity to move back here in '07. You know, you had the Jay Bruce moment, but there weren't 25,000 people here that night when he hit the home run that we showed you earlier to send the Reds to the 2010 National League flag, Central Division flag. In the playoffs of 2010, the Reds got kicked around. They only played one game here, and it was over. In 2012, you won the first 2 games in San Francisco. You lost 3 in a row here. I only bring up these other things because there really haven't been a lot of incredible moments in this ballpark that came close to that night, even though it was a home run derby. And to be down there and the excitement in this ballpark when he had to close with a flurry when it looked like he wasn't going to do it, this place was just bedlam.
I think in any sporting event anywhere, that's what you're looking for, is something that takes you to the ultimate heights of excitement. And I know for me and my family, sitting behind the third base dugout, there were people in the stands crying when they thought Frazier was not going to win after Jock Peterson hit about 1 million home runs in the first, right ahead of him. And then Frazier looked like he was running out of time. I can remember my son Mason looking at me, kind of tears in his eyes, like, Teddy, is he going to win?
I hear you.
And I mean, what do you say? And then he ends up pulling the rabbit out of the hat. You go from the agony of defeat or possible defeat to, like you said, bedlam. Get any better than that.
No, it was a great moment.
I mean, I've played in a lot of championships and a lot of great venues. That was electric. Hair standing up on your arms.
2-2 the count on Gonzalez, and they finally get him out. He was making a run for what would be a 4th multi-homer game in this ballpark. I beg your pardon. Tonight was his 3rd multi-homer game in this ballpark.
And what's amazing about that pitch, it was a hanging breaking ball spinning away, and that's the pitch that normally Gonzalez handles quite well. He has earlier in this ball game. He just missed it.
Now Lobaton, he has drawn the starting assignment behind the plate here tonight. He had a double his first time up, struck out in the 3rd, and flied out to left field in the 5th.
I would say Jared Hughes would tell you on that hanging breaking ball in the middle of the strike zone, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
All right, Hughes trying to get his team right back to the plate. Fastball missed. Reds have scored in 3 of the last 4 innings, and they're down by 2 with 3 more cracks at them here tonight. Top of the order due up in the 7th.
You come out of the bullpen, get your team right back into the dugout, and you keep that momentum working in your direction.
How about Jared Hughes? A 1-2-3 inning, first one of those tonight by a Reds pitcher. So the bullpen shutting them out the last 2 innings. Let's see if the offense gets back at it when we return.
ballpark. Time for our game summary. The Mets came out smoking against Homer Bailey, scored in each of the first 5 innings. Home runs from Michael Conforto, Jay Bruce, and Adrian Gonzalez. They led 5-0, but the Reds started to come back with Billy Hamilton's second of the season. Eugenio Suarez got him a little bit closer in the 6th to make it 7-4 as Suarez goes deep. And then Scott Schebler off the bench with what could have been more, but turned out to be a sac fly. And that gets us to where we stand now, 7-5, bottom 7. Reds trying to mount a comeback now late in the game against the Mets.
All right, Brian, thank you very much. They have the top of the order coming up. So it'll begin with Winker, then Peraza, then Votto. That trio extremely quiet tonight. In fact, the first 3 hitters in the Reds lineup, they combined 0 for 8. And only once has one of those 3 reached base, and that was in Votto's very first plate appearance when he drew a 2-out first inning walk. Sharply hit, but right at Gonzalez. He's always been a slick defender down there at first base. 1 away. Well, the Reds take on the Chicago Cubs, and you can be here for as low as $10. Don't miss fireworks Friday. We have a Super Saturday doubleheader. That'll be a day-night doubleheader. And family Sundays. For tickets, visit Reds.com. That'll be on the next homestand. Reds will be leaving when they wrap up this series with the New York Mets. Headed out to do a little California dreaming, a little reminiscent for the cowboy of his days with the Giants. It's a ground ball to short. Rosario cuts it loose. Out is a call at first.
Big hustle by Peraza. He's only maybe a step away from beating that out. Maybe a half a step.
And no challenge by the Reds. 3 pitches to get 2 outs. And they got the call right. Jerry Meals, the crew chief of this umpiring crew, making the call out. And now Votto.
Yeah, I would say some of the crazier moments in my career happened either at Dodger Stadium or at Candlestick in San Francisco.
And of course, Dodger Stadium still stands. We'll be there starting Thursday night. Beautiful as ever.
Got my first save at Dodger Stadium.
How about that? And I tell you, I get bummed out every time we land at SFO and we go driving by Candlestick Point, and
it's not there anymore.
It's not there anymore. I used to love going to that ballpark. I know most other people didn't like it at all. I loved going there.
Well, if you were a hitter, you hated it there. If you were a pitcher, you loved it because the wind always blew. The dust was always in the air. And if you were on the mound and you were smart about it, you could time the hot dog wrapper going right in front of the batter. Because there were a boatload of them out there.
There was just a, I'm not even sure, you know, you could use the word aura. There are other words you could choose to describe that ballpark. But until you went there and saw what it was truly like on a summer night, without a doubt, so freezing cold. That ball driven into left center, and that'll do it. Boy, that's solid work by the Met bullpen. 1, 2, 3 against the top of the order. That trio hitless tonight.
After the Cubs were roughed up a bit in St. Louis over the weekend, they're back home and back on track early against the Marlins. Bottom one, that's Chris Bryant deep to left field. One of 3 home runs for the Cubs early. They lead right now 7-1 in the 5th at Wrigley Field. Back to time of the Cowboys.
All righty, Brian, thank you very much. The Cubbies beginning play. 1 game over 500. The Cardinals, the division leaders, have won 5 in a row. They're trailing the Twins tonight in the 4th inning, 3-0. Milwaukee a game and a half back. Pittsburgh 2.5 back, and then Chicago 3.5. Arizona still with the best record in the National League, and Boston has yet to lose a 10th game so far this year. Red Sox are 25-9. They're going to let Gesellman bat, and he looks at strike 3. Why wouldn't you? He just came off a 1-2-3 inning. We'll get ready for Reds action 30 minutes before the start of every game. We call it Reds Live, presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. Same start time tomorrow, Reds Live 6:30. And our game coverage gets underway at 7. Jason Vargas been around since the beginning of time, seemingly off to a rough start with the Mets. Luis Castillo, Cowboy, you and I called his last game. You thought he threw the ball much better.
I did. I thought he was much more aggressive, throwing downhill. And I think if he will stay with those mechanics and that pitch philosophy, I think we'll start to see the Luis Castillo that we saw when he came to the big leagues last year.
Been quite a night for Ahmed Rosario. A sac fly to center field to drive in a run in the 2nd inning. He doubled off the right center field wall in the 4th and then hooked one up the 3rd baseline for a double his last time up.
Of course, if you remember, when Tyler Mahle and the gentleman we were talking about, Luis Castillo, came to the big leagues, they came from Double-A. Well, Mahle pitched in Triple-A a little bit, but their names and their presence was known at the big league level by the success they had at Double-A. Who was their pitching coach? Danny Darwin. It's amazing how that little bit of transition, one bullpen session, all of a sudden Castillo may be back to where he's supposed to be.
Well, let's certainly hope for that, because the Reds could use a good start from anybody. These guys in the bullpen can't go 6 innings every night, 5 innings every night.
You know, and you can have 6 different pitching coaches saying the same exact thing, but a pitcher hears it different from one of them, and that's the one that normally makes the difference.
Straight up into the air off the bat of Conforto, and a 1-2-3 inning, back-to-back perfect innings. Nice job, Jared Hughes. Suarez, Jeanette, Duvall coming up. Back in a moment.
for the Storm. The Reds Live post-game set. Don't forget the post-game show comes up immediately after the game. It's presented by Performance Kings Honda. I'll make my way to the set. Jeff Pecoro down in the Reds clubhouse, and hopefully talking about a big Reds comeback win here against the Mets, guys.
Well, Brian, thanks for all your work down there alongside the dugout. We'll look forward to catching up with you here shortly. Gesellman has thrown the ball exceptionally well since coming out of the bullpen. He's faced 5 batters, retired each of them. Suarez tonight, 2 of 3, a double and a home run, has scored twice, knocked in a run.
Well, Gesellman, if you think about it, Tom, he's been a starter the majority of the time coming up through the Met system, and was a starter quite a bit at the big league level last year. So if you're Mickey Callaway, you really don't have that much issue running him out there for extended innings, as long as he's being effective.
Of course, Callaway came from Cleveland, where he was the pitching coach under manager Terry Francona. First-year manager, replacing Terry Collins. Collins did a nice job in New York.
I thought he did a great job.
I mean, he had to manage through chaos. That one popped up into right, and Bruce got a good jump on it to run it down.
Well, not only the chaos, but the injuries as well.
Now a quick message from Miami Valley Gaming.
Get ready to get lucky.
Yeah, the injuries were chaos. You had some of the off the field stuff going on.
Well, especially when they did so well, gets them so deep into the postseason, and then everybody's expecting that over and over again.
Jeanette plays long ball, and it's a 1-run game. How about this?
I don't care how you slice it. You've got to give some credit to the Reds offensive players here tonight, getting your brains beat out early in this ball game. It looked like it was going to be a runaway train, and they have continued to battle and have now pulled themselves to within one swing of the bat of tying this bad boy up.
Jeanette home run number 3, and here's Duvall with a chance to tie it with one mighty crack of the bat. Wow. Frazier makes a play at third, and thankfully there's a screen up there now.
Thank the Lord. That would have been dangerous, because that was a major snap right at the handle. The entire part of the heavy part of the bat was headed like a missile over the third base dugout, but it hits the net harmlessly, falls to the warning track.
With a spear at the other end.
Yeah.
All right, Tucker Barnhart's had a good night. You know, this middle part of the batting order, after the first 3 guys in the lineup, they combined, what, 0 for 11. You have Suarez, 2 hits, 2 runs. Jeanette, 2 hits, 2 runs. Duvall with a hit and a run. Barnhart, a couple of hits. But on the ground down to first, so the Reds get a solo home run by Jeanette, and we're on our way to inning number 9. 7-6, Mets in front. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And buy Toyota for over 30 offers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. Ohio, Fox Sports Ohio, Fan Express getting you to the ballpark. Log on to Reds.com and check it out. See if they can bring your group or plan to the game one night. All right, the Reds closer, Raisel Iglesias takes over on the mound, trying to keep it a one-run game. Mets in front 7-6.
Now, will that Fox Sports Ohio bus, will that stop by your house?
Well, I think if you have a group and everybody wants to meet at your house, as Cespedes hooks one down the left field line, this will be another extra base hit. I think they'd be happy to pick you up. It's one stop that picks up whoever you need picked up. So if you decide it's at the Brantley house in Jackson, then so be it.
So if I get everybody to come over to my crib, then we're good to go.
You're good to go. Jackson might cost you a little extra glue.
What if I'm coming from Mason?
I think you'd be just fine.
Might have to check into that. Will they take me home?
Yes, they do. They take you home.
But back to my house, right?
Yes.
Well, that means I got a whole bunch of folks there when I'm ready to go to sleep.
No, you got to run them off at that point.
Ain't gonna work
well, you know, but it all depends on what you're up for. So, I mean, you know, look, I get it.
I'm up for sleep.
Well, that's right, Cowboy. The kind of glue you have, you know, you tip that driver and you go anywhere you want. There's a base hit into right field, and after two batters, the Mets have runners at first and third and nobody out. A double by Cespedes as Jose Reyes, former longtime Mets star, runs for him. And now Jay Bruce with a base hit into right. Reyes had to wait to see if Votto was going to catch that ball. It's a tough angle to be able to tell as a base runner. Boy, there was a time he was as dynamic as any player in the league.
Talking about Reyes, right?
Yeah, Reyes.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, he was something. Still looks good for his age. Still playing. All right, they're on the corners with nobody out. And here's Cabrera. Cabrera is 0 for 4. So too is the man on deck, Todd Frazier. And they have struck out 4 of the 8 times they've come to the plate.
That looked like a strike whether he swung or not.
And Iglesias snaps that ball back on the throw from Tucker Barnhart. None too happy about this call.
Iglesias thought so too.
Ball 3.
Well, you're in a spot right now. If you're Iglesias, you're not looking for a double play ball here. You're looking for a punch out.
Cabrera, you brought up earlier, hunting that fastball, and on 3-0, he let it rip.
And that pitch was not really even close to being a strike. He was just looking inside, guessing fastball. It was well in. He took a hack at it.
Three balls and 2 strikes on Cabrera. Pat Kelly, the bench coach of the Reds interim skipper Jim Riggleman.
Well, this inning may come, the ball game may come down to this pitch.
Got a strikeout for the first out of the inning after Iglesias fell behind 3-0.
Outstanding, outstanding comeback. You give up a base hit there, well, you suck the wind right out of the sails of the Reds. They've continued to edge back, this offense has, in this ball game. But you cannot allow a run here. You can't let Frazier get the ball in the air. You've got to make him fish for that slider off the plate away that we've seen a propensity of Frazier to go after that pitch.
Frazier 0 for 4 tonight in his first game back to Cincinnati, not wearing a Reds uniform.
Frazier will chase the ball up in the strike zone. He will chase that breaking ball down and away.
On the ground. There's one, and Rysel able to get out of the jam. All right, Reds bat last of the 9th inning. They're down by a run.
For
But his
the Mets is in the ball game.
I beg your pardon, Cowboy. Now those numbers look really good, except for the 3 blown saves in the last 7 he's pitched in.
Open the season dominating. But when you've blown quite a few saves, you have a little bit of information in the back of your mind that you don't want to have.
Rosell Herrera will lead things off. He came on defensively in the top of the 9th inning to take over for Duvall. So it'll be Herrera, Hamilton, Winker, down a run here in the bottom of the 9th.
Yeah, when you're closing, you want that feeling of invincibility. It's supreme confidence. And that confidence is shaken when you have a couple of blown saves in a week, or even one blown save in a week.
He had surgery to his right side last year, did Familian. So they shut him down. It was right around this time a year ago. Came back all the way the final days of August and wound up finishing the year with 6 saves. 2 years prior, he had 51 saves and 43 saves. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Herrera. 2-2.
We're going to get that hard tailing fastball. It's got a bit of sink to it. More times than not, it's going to be 96, 97 miles an hour. And you got to figure out how to hit it.
Strike 3 called, a fastball right down the middle at 96. 1 away in the Reds' 9th. You know, look, everybody's just focused right now on the Reds getting a single run to tie this thing or win the thing in walk-off fashion in the bottom of the 9th inning. But one thing that cannot be overlooked tonight is a job done by the Reds bullpen. I mean, they got a horrific outing from Bailey. And then you go Stevens, Hughes, Iglesias, 5 innings allowed 1 run. And that was Jackson Stevens' first inning. After replacing Bailey, he gave up the home run to Gonzalez. Here's Billy. 0-1. So well done tonight by that trio.
And for the most part, the bullpen has been, they've been awfully reliable. But you can't go there every single night, or you get to the middle of June and they are burnt out like we saw last year.
I mean, the one guy that really stood out last year, the 2 guys who just completely ran out of steam, Lorenzen and especially Wandy Peralta.
Exactly.
You don't want to see that again. Those guys were having really good years. They still had good years. They were having great years.
Well, Michael Lorenzen at the beginning of the season last year, coming out of the bullpen, setting up for Iglesias, he was unhittable. And his ERA was under 2 for the majority of the time. But he was pitching, if it wasn't every other day, it was every day. Or he was up every day.
And throwing multiple innings when he did come in. 2-1 the count on Billy Hamilton. Ooh, he had a good pitch to hit right there and fouled it back. Billy does have a home run tonight. He also has a pair of fly balls to center.
Yeah, if you're Hamilton facing a guy like Familia, you have to think shoot the ball the other way. If you try to pull the ball here, you're a dead out.
2 balls, 2 strikes on Hamilton. With 1 out and the Reds down 1 run, last of the 9th inning. New left fielder is Conforto. He moves over to left with Lagares taking over in center, and the Reds are down to their final out. Bailey, the pitcher of record tonight for the Reds. Sewald would be the pitcher of record for the Mets. And Familia trying to get save number 10, but the Reds have other thoughts. Jesse Winker, the batter, with 2 outs. Winker does not have a home run this year. Two and 0 on Jesse Winker. 2 balls and a strike. Winker waiting. And now 2-2. Major League debut tonight for P.J. Conlon. He cannot get the win. He did not survive 4 innings tonight, much less 5. But hanging around, hoping his team can snap a 6-game losing streak.
First major league start, first major league hit.
2-2 on the way. Game over, and the Mets have won the opener by a final count of 7-6. Familier 1-2-3 9 for his 10th save. Miller time holds true moments. 3rd career multi-homer game for Adrian Gonzalez in this ballpark, and all 3 have come in which Homer Bailey was the starting pitcher in the game. It's hard to believe the numbers he has put up in just now 33 games at Great American Ballpark. All right, Reds live right around the corner. 7-6, New York wins the series opener.